Today I'm trying out Watercolor in Corel Painter 2019. So here we are in Corel Painter 2019. I'm going to try and set this up for a watercolor painting. I'm using an A3 size canvas at 300 dpi. I've done a little bit of research, so hopefully this is going to work. I have a layer 1 and a canvas, and the layer 1 I want to fill with a mid-tone grey. So by popping, I'm on RGB. Well, I don't want RGB actually. I want to, right click and select display as HSV, and that way I can knock the saturation right down to 0 and the hue down to 0 and set this at about 125, which is about halfway in between the two, to give me a neutral grey. Select the fill tool and fill that grey. Once I've done that, I can then go to effects, surface control, and apply a surface texture. And the one I want, if I select paper, I fancy going with this rough. When I work on watercolor paper, I use rough watercolor or hot pressed. Handmade watercolor, that looks interesting. I might go with that actually. What I don't want is this shine, that's got to go. That's better. And I think that's quite a nice texture. I might just move the light a bit more central. Okay, there we go. And click on OK. So obviously that's way too dark. So what I want to do is select it's set to default mode. So this is the blending mode. If I choose overlay, now it appears white, but if I go to the canvas and choose a colour for that, I'm using an off-white creamy colour, and fill that. So I'm on the canvas. You can now see, if I zoom in, the texture on the paper. It's a long-winded way of doing this compared to say Art Rage, but you have such a lot of control over it. So, and I know you can do lots of wonderful things with this. I'm not even scratching the surface yet. I'm just going to make it a little bit lighter. I could use these sliders actually, make it a lot easier. Use that bucket fill again, and that's more like it. So at that point I am going to choose my layer 1, name it texture, and lock it. So I am ready to start painting, and I'm working in watercolour, so I'm going to use the real watercolour brushes. So I've selected those there, so I've got all these brushes to play around with. I have no idea what they do. I've had a quick play, but there's so many I can't remember what does what. So this is going to be another experiment, and let's crack on, let's see what we get. So what I thought I would do is take one of my old watercolour paintings and see if I can reproduce it in Corel Painter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up the file or the scanned image that I've produced of my original painting. So this is it. It's just something dead simple, a tree stump and a few trees and a sort of a very washed out background. So I am going to, first of all, I thought I'd try and make a colour palette of this. So by going to the colour and layer stack here, I can choose new colour set from image. And I've already tried this to see if it works. So I've got tree stump typed in, which is cool. But I don't want, I think 32 colours, 35, something like that is plenty. So I click OK, and if I scroll down here now, I have my tree stump colour palette. Now I know there's not, when I painted this I was using ultramarine blue, so some quite strong colours mixed with burnt sienna and burnt umber. So the actual colour palette I used for this was ultramarine blue, raw sienna, and burnt umber, just those 4 colours. So I've obviously got a lot more here, and I'm not sure, I've had a little play around with the watercolour thing. You put the colour on, very much like real watercolour, it becomes lighter. So I may have to tweak these colours. I don't know if they're going to work, but anyway, this is the painting I'm going to paint. So I'm now going to close that down. Oops, I think I've closed. Oh, I've cloned it. I don't want to clone it. No, I don't want to save that. And close that one. Here we are. So this, first of all, I need to rotate this canvas. So I guess I'll go to canvas, rotate canvas, here we go, 90 degrees clockwise. And there we are. I can bring that down a little bit. I suppose I could set up a reference image. So let's see, window, I guess, reference image. It's all really quite self-explanatory really, this program. It looks massively complicated, but I know I'm only scratching the surface still. For everybody that's like experts out there, I'm not pretending I'm, you know, an expert at this by any means. I'm just feeling my way. But it's nice that you can produce something without a lot of research and a lot of reading. It's quite intuitive. If you've used other painting apps, I would imagine if you're brand new to it, it would probably freak you out. So I've got a folder somewhere. These are all my videos, and I've already created a folder where I'm going to start putting the files for the videos. That's the image I want for my reference. I could make that a bit bigger, I suppose. That'll probably do quite nice. Yep. Now I've got to try and see if I can paint that on here. We shall see. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. So I think I'm going to try and build this up with a series of layers. So I'm going to look for a brush. I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. I haven't got a clue. I wonder what grainy wet looks like. Let's try that. That's a decent size. And I'm just going to put a sort of a background wash over this. Now when I start painting, it will create a new layer. There we go, the watercolour layer. And look how when you can paint, and while you're painting, not much happens, but when you take the brush off, it diffuses. Look at that. That's awesome. It needs to be a little bit stronger colour, because like real watercolour, it does dry lighter. In fact, I think I'm going to start again. I'm going to delete that layer, and I'm going to start again with these lighter colours. I was worried that they were going to be too light, but no, they're not. They're really nice. Right, so let's create, I've created my new layer, and I think I can shrink the brush size slightly. I'm going to stick with this brush for now because I'm going to put another layer of washes on here and begin with this sort of mid-ground colour round about here. If I can pause the diffusion so it won't start diffusing. Oh, that's maybe a bit. No, I'll stick with that size. It won't start diffusing until I take the pause off, which might be quite nice. I may have to use the eraser to lift some out as well. I suppose I could have just put it on as a wash and then lifted it out. But I do like to paint negative, and I imagine that this is just all going to fill in, and I'm going to think, oh, I should have done that in the first place anyway. Now, if I go for a darker colour, I wonder if it will, yeah, it's diluting it with the water that's already on there. It's interesting. So I'll go back to this one. I think that was the one. I know what's going to happen. This is just going to disappear when I take that diffusion thing off. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger. So put a sweeping brush stroke in there. Let's just do that a bit. Oh, I knocked the opacity down, didn't I? Let's get that back up. So do that. That's it. Let's take the diffusion off. Let's see what happens. That's quite nice. I thought it would have diffused more than that, so I quite like that, really. I wonder if there's a way I can soften that edge. I wonder if I've got like a wet brush. Let's see what we've got. Wet eraser. Let's see what that does. That kind of adds colour. I don't know. Maybe do I need to choose a light? Zoom in a bit. Well, that isn't working what I thought it was going to do. Let's step back. Oh, too far. Forward again. I think I'll come back when I've found the brush I need, because I'm going to be playing around with this for a while. Right, I'm back. I found the brush I need. It's called Eraser Dry Watercolor, and that is in the watercolor collection, not the real watercolor. And that does a perfect job. If I come over here and I've got a brush size of 113, and then I start erasing not right up to the edge, it just sort of softens that out. There we go, and I can just blend that away. That's what I wanted. I just didn't want that odd edge. That'll do. So I can zoom back out again now and crack on with the painting. So I need to go back to, I'm going to shut this paper down. I can't see me using that again. I'm going to choose real watercolour, and I've been messing around with different brushes. I think I was using grainy wet before. Ooh, yeah, like it. Gives that nice, oops, colours have moved around a bit. It's very much like, something's just occurred to me. If you want to strengthen up the colours, I guess you can dry the paper and then choose a different colour and paint over it. Yeah, that works. That's interesting. That is interesting. Okay, right, back to what I was doing. Let's a little bit bigger brush. Let's start getting some of these other colours in. Because I'm conscious that this is taking quite a while. And I don't want it to be a massively long painting, this one. So what I'm doing now, I'm just sort of painting in the shapes of some of these rocks. And the negative shapes of that little bit of grass there. Let's choose a blue for a little bit. Let's see if we can get that to blend in there a bit. So I'm still only on the second layer, building this up nice and steady. Working wet in wet, I suppose, where the colours diffuse all the time. The harder you press on it, puts more colour, and it does diffuse much more. If you just keep the brush with light pressure, it doesn't diffuse nearly as much. So you've got this sort of dark shadow. If I dry that off now, I suppose I should create a new layer, really. Let's do that. That fly is driving me crazy. I didn't mean to create that one. So number 3, layer 3. Let's get this tree in. Like it. Ooh. Don't know what's happened there. Is that a bit too dark, perhaps? I don't know. It's interesting though, very interesting. I want a quite a pale colour just to bring down the side of the stump there. That's cool. I can use the eraser, I guess, just to remove the colours I don't want and just make that edge a little bit sharper. So painting negative. Maybe it's a bit bigger than that. That's cool. Then I'm absolutely sure there is a way to swap between, create a set of brushes that I can use. So I can just sort of have them in a palette and flick between them, but I just haven't explored that yet. I'm just excited about messing around with the media, really. I'm quite happy with the way this is going. I think I'll probably speed the video up at this point and just do some painting. Otherwise it's probably going to get a little bit tedious. Oh, I've chose liquid oil. That's not what I wanted. So, okay, at this point I am going to speed it up a bit. So I've discovered a couple of brushes while I've been working on this. I just want to show you those. So I'm now I was using the grainy wet, and I'm using the real wet detail for the detail work, and this real dirty water is a really cool brush because I can select colour. I'll work on this layer and it sort of blends out the edges, but also puts a colour on there of sort of dirty colour, and it's what I've done all of this with, and I'm really liking that effect. It also seems to pick up the texture of the paper, and I've fiddled around with that a little bit. I've discovered I can change the grain of the brush, so I just wanted to show you the brushes that I'm now working with. And also, if I flick my Wacom pencil, I'm using a Wacom Intuos Pro, it automatically selects the watercolor eraser. So I've now got easy access to all of my brushes because I've sort of moved them all together, the 3 that I'm using. And I know there's better ways of doing it, but this is working for me now. So I just wanted to show you that those are now the 3 brushes that I'm working with. So I'm going to crack on. I'm coming to the end of the painting now. I like to say that Corel Painter is obviously an excellent application for producing watercolor paintings. I'm not so sure it's the easiest application I've ever used. I found it easier to get a result with Rebel 3 than this. I think there's a lot under the hood of this. There is a steep learning curve. I did have to watch a few videos just to set up the paper texture, really. I didn't look at any videos on watercolor painting. I sort of worked that out for myself. But there is a learning curve, but it's a challenge. So challenges should be accepted, shouldn't they? Another application that I just love. There's so many apps out there that are just brilliant to work with. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, a big thumbs up as always is much appreciated. Helps me out a lot, helps the channel. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing because I have lots of videos like this and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.